I live in London. As a British Muslim, I can go to a mosque to pray, send my kids to an Islamic school, and wear a hijab. High street banks even offer me Islamic interest-free mortgages and savings. But if I want to marry or divorce in the Islamic way, or leave an Islamic will, it won't be recognised in British law. And that's why a growing number of British Muslims want their own legal system, Shari'ah. But I'm not sure I want to live under Islamic law. Its reputation is about beheadings, stoning, amputations, and the mistreatment of women. And recent images of violence in Pakistan remind us it's a burning issue everywhere. So I'm going to a Sharia court in another country to see Islamic justice in action. When I mention the word Sharia, what does it make you think of?
It's something to do with the women's wearing veils, isn't it?
Sharia? Never heard of it. Sharia law? No. You never heard of it?
Sharia? Sounds like a wine.
Islamic law, isn't it? Yeah.
It makes me probably think of the Middle East and the law that they live their country by.
Well, I mean, I don't know too much about it, to be honest. I know it's quite strict.
My layman's interpretation of the law is that it can be oppressive to women.
Oppressive, that's what I believe it to be.
Slightly intimidating perhaps in some terms.
My perception of it is imposed law, and that's not the way of Britain.
And how do you feel about it being introduced in Britain for Muslims?
I don't think it should be, personally.
So if I was to tell you that some British Muslims would like to introduce Sharia law here for themselves on civil matters, how would you feel about that?
I think that it would be outrageous.
What would people like her make of this, I wonder?
Today he is asking about adoption, that whether this will be in Sharia law allowed for Muslims or not.
This is Sharia law in action. This is not Saudi, this is not Iran, it's not even Pakistan, it's England, London.
These children are going to be taken care by people of other faith, or maybe who have no faith at all.
Adoption cannot actually be accepted. So adoption is no.
Right, this morning we are talking about Sharia law. A recent survey found that almost 40% of British Muslims would like Sharia law to be incorporated into British law. Well, what do you think? I want to know your thoughts on this. Give me a call.
For Muslims to feel fully part of this society, there are certain elements of their personal life that could be operated through Sharia system.
Let's do our own straw poll here. Would you like Sharia law implemented in the UK? If so, why is that?
A lot of them might not realise that Sharia law is not barbaric. It's not barbaric. We have to really go back right to the start and try and understand what Sharia really is.
But how do we get around the problem that many people see Sharia law as a hugely negative thing because quite honestly the way it's been implemented in some Muslim countries?
I feel that people really do need to fall back on Sharia law. They need to move to a country where it's operating. But while in Britain,
Saudi has got the lowest robberies in any country in the world, purely because if you steal something, your hands get cut off.
Sharia law in Britain would deal with marriages, property, custody and other family disputes. But how could this work alongside our existing British law? Well, there's a country where this happens, and that's where I'm going. The legal system in Nigeria is based on British law. But for the last 7 years, some northern states with a Muslim majority have introduced Sharia law to run alongside it. This is the South. It's like many other hustling, bustling African towns that I've been to. So this is the state capital of Zamfara, where Sharia was first introduced. But Sharia isn't something that I can see on the streets. I can't quite feel it. I think it's a lot more subtle than that. Like many British Muslims, I grew up with only a vague understanding of Sharia law. I've never seen it in practice. Today's guest teacher is Judge Isa Ismaila Moriki.
What is Sharia? Many of the people, they don't know the actual meaning of Sharia. Many. The word Sharia comes from where? From Arabic word. It is derived from the root meaning road. It is the road which leads to Almighty God. The legal meaning of Islam is of course complete and absolute submission to the will of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sharia in Islam, you cannot separate Sharia from Islam. You cannot separate Islam from Sharia. It is one single thing. To follow Almighty Allah according to His commandment. So it means for a Muslim has no choice. Whatever it is, whatever his interest, whatever he likes, he has to follow the commandment of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether he like it or not.
This is one of Nigeria's Sharia courts, where the law is laid down according to the Quran, which Muslims believe to be the word of God. All cases here are presided over by Judge Isa. His name literally means Jesus in Arabic. Jesus is one of the prophets in Islam. In Britain, there's a lot of British Muslims who want to have Sharia. So I, as a Muslim as well, who lives in Britain, want to know, how is it actually practiced? What does it mean? How does it affect me as an individual? What kind of justice will I get if I go to court? So that's why I want to spend time with you, Judge Isa, to understand exactly how.
If you learn about inshallah, no doubt exactly. When you stay here, you learn a lot. You will see that we have different cases. Yes. See both in civil and the criminals.
The introduction of Sharia to Nigeria in 2001 split previously integrated communities. Christians clashed bitterly with Muslims. Opponents of Sharia were frightened by stories from Saudi Arabia and Iran of men and women brutally beaten or stoned to death. To many, this is Sharia. The Nigerian clashes left over 300 dead and thousands displaced. So 7 years later, is Sharia here a brutal system? Or is it, as Muslims see it, a peaceful, all-encompassing law? Once inside the court, according to conservative Islamic traditions, men and women sit apart. Formally, any citizen can choose between the two systems. All Muslims choose Sharia. But if they don't agree with the verdict, they can appeal to the High Court. Judge Isa is due to give a verdict. The case involves a woman seeking maintenance from her estranged husband. Even though she left him, under Sharia he must support her until they divorce. He says he has. She says he hasn't. So it's just her word against his. I wondered, would she, a woman, get justice in an Islamic court? Given the chance to take the oath, she is ushered out of court. I wasn't sure what was going on, or what this had to do with the case. I wondered if it was a religious rather than legal matter. Would you say that a Sharia court is a religious court?
Well, you can say so. A Sharia court, as I've told you, seen before, you cannot differentiate between Sharia and Islam. That is, you cannot differentiate between Sharia and the religion. So, all the procedure, and except in certain circumstances, they are tallied with the religion.
I discovered the woman had left the court to cleanse herself before being allowed to touch the holy book. It's impossible to exaggerate the respect Muslims have for the Quran. The oath she was about to take on the book was going to have a bigger bearing on her case than I imagined.
Here is Adia Ibrahim. Billahi allazi la ilaha illa huwa. Kina rantsuwa da Alƙur'ani mai girma irin 60.
Ina rantsuwa da Alƙur'ani mai girma irin 60.
Cewa wannan ƙara da kike wa mijinki hantsi.
Cewa wanda ƙara da duka wa mijina hantsi.
Tsawon wata 11. Kada Allah ya baki abin da kika so duniya da lahira.
Kada Allah ya bani abin da nika so duniya da lahira.
With the Quran safely back in its place, the stalemate was broken. The judge now knew what to do.
Dangane da abin da ya gabata a sama, na hukunta maka kai hantsi Yahaya da ka biya matarka Sadiya Ibrahim jumlar kuɗi naira 29,440 da naira 40 daidai.
Her oath was enough for the judge to decide in her favor, and that was that. Case over, and not a complaint from anyone.
In the Sharia, the divine law are to be applied. Well, in the higher court is man law based. That is an individual who are going, or the public, or the state can make laws. But here in the Sharia, it is a divine law. Nobody has a right to change it.
In Sharia, to lie in court is lying to Allah. For religious law to work, everyone involved must be believers. The Sharia court is set up like a magistrate's court, but feels more like a community centre. Like the mosque, people gather here and take an interest in each other's problems. As well as having a law degree, the judge is an expert in Islamic studies. A thorough knowledge of the Quran and the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad play a vital part in handing out justice. One of the key principles in the Quran is the concept of forgiveness and reconciliation.
Mediation is allowed under Islamic law and the primary source of the law. It has been mentioned in the Holy Quran that wasulhu khayr, that to make a mediation is something which is very good. It's very, very nice because it's very cheap, very simple, and you can solve the problem amicably.
Every morning before court, Judge Isa sees people in his chambers. His aim is to mediate and avoid unnecessary court cases. These men are due to appear in court about a fight over the younger one courting the older man's daughter against his will. But they've had a change of heart and want to avoid a messy case.
This boy, he gets some parent and other people, they meet the man, asking him to pardon him. And he said he agreed to pardon him, therefore he has no anything except to pardon him. Now they settle.
So it's
settled. No, that's why I say you should go and write a letter for settlement to be confirmed by the court. So the case will be over. You see, it's very simple.
Judge Issa feels that social harmony is the key to a good Islamic life. It relies on people putting aside their individual needs for the greater good of the community. He says once he settles a dispute, it helps people to put things behind them.
Kasan shi abu na Allah ne. Idan Allah ya riga rubuto abu na sai ya faru to faruwa zai. In kuma ka gani abun nan bai faru ba, to Allah bai riga ya rubuto shi ba.
The judge had some stern advice for someone he didn't think was following the Islamic code. Me.
Hey, you are asking me Shari'ah, why did you ask me about hijab? You are saying you are Muslim and you are not covering your head. What are you supposed to do? Why?
Tell me why I'm supposed to do it?
You're supposed obligatory upon a lady to, under Islamic law, to cover her head. Of course. It has been mentioned in the Holy Quran. And the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it obligatory upon the ladies to cover their head. That is because she will not attract other men to her.
But if she's modest, like I'm dressed in as far as I'm concerned, I'm dressed in a very modest way. I'm not doing.
But it's not to close your head.
But I'm not doing anything to attract. Are you attracted by my hair?
No. Almighty Allah is a creator, isn't he? He created me, he created you. He controls the world. And you know everything here and the hereafter. Therefore, we need not to ask why the Almighty God gave us instruction. We need not to ask. He created us. And He's going to kill us. And we are going to turn to Him. To return to Him. So why are we asking why this law and so? He is the creator of everything. Whether it's good or bad, we need not to ask. We have to obey.
Here in Nigeria, it's still a personal choice. Judge Issa couldn't punish me for not wearing the hijab. But in Afghanistan under the Taliban, or Saudi Arabia and Iran, it is a serious and punishable offense. With the judge's disapproval ringing in my ears, I wondered if women here feel pressured to adopt Islamic dress in place of traditional and to me equally modest African head covering. If anyone would tell me the truth, I thought it would be women themselves. I went to meet a women's group in a nearby village. Among the first I met, all but the Christians were covered up, and happy about it.
Da ɗinki da komi yanzu muna sa kayayyakin mu sosai na shari'a na musulunci wanda musulunci ya tanadi mu sa muna sa hijabin mu da yaran ko ƴan yaran mu yanzu ba mu ko yaran mu yanzu ba mu bari ko ɗan shekara 2 ne yanzu muna mai hijabi mu mun san akwai bambanci mai ƙarfi tunda ke ga da sai mu sa gyale ko mu sa zane muna tafiya yana warewa muna tafiya yana budewa amma kike ga in muka sa hijabin mu shikenan in ba dai kai ka cire shi da kanka ba ya abun kuma ko daurin zanen mu muna yin abun mu ya kai har bisa kafafun mu gaskiya hajiya mu shari'a ta taimaka mana kwarai mun samu ci gaba kwarai na shari'a
akwai yan caca akwai yan shaye-shaye akwai karuwai amma saboda tsayar da shari'a gara an kai yanzu wannan abin duk babu shi sai na kuma ke ga yarima yanzu gaskiya ya buɗa mana santa ga tunan muna ta ƙaruwa mana mun samu ci gaba
da fa zane suna cutar da mata baka amma saboda yin shari'a da akwai jin tsoron ka cutar da mata a kai kotu dan ka san cewa za a hukunta ka ko saboda haka shi dan fa abin tsoro ne akan ka dole ka kauce ka so zama lafiya da mace don akwai asu da aka hukunta kamar nan kotun faru akwai wani da ya faru matar shi daga mayaci an zo an hukunta shi alƙali ya bai hukunci kan diyatsa ɗaya 5,000 diyatsa ɗaya 5,000.
These women clearly feel they benefit from Sharia law. I was surprised. A few years ago I made a film about a Nigerian woman sentenced to death by stoning for adultery. The evidence against her was that she was pregnant and unmarried. While the man absconded and was never tried, her evidence that he had promised to marry her was judged irrelevant. Although 7th century Islam was revolutionary in giving women any rights at all, these days, in regard to sexual offences, they're badly disadvantaged. a woman's evidence is still only worth half a man's. In adultery cases, a woman can't be a witness at all. What about the women? Why can't we have women witnesses?
No, the evidence of women there is not admissible in the case of adultery.
Why not?
Yes, because under Sharia, the procedure is that there are certain cases where the evidence of female acceptable. There are certain areas where the evidence of female are not admissible.
What happens if a woman has been raped? Then what do you do?
The rape is that if she was raped by somebody, if she cannot bring for reliable witness, the persons accused should be what? Discharged if there is no reliable witnesses.
But Judge Issa, how can you have a reliable witness in rape? Rape happens.
By how? Give me an example.
Well, rape normally happens when the woman is unaware, she's forced. It's usually done discreetly because the man is in no fit state.
She has to shout. If she's
shouting and she's
and there is nobody.
Yes,
there is nobody. The law here is that immediately after that the accused suspect cannot wait. If he run away, where the people gather and they meet her with that shouting, she will be exempted from punishment.
Say that again. If
she will be exempted from punishment. How? Because he was forced under Islamic law. Anybody who commit anything by force, he was not committing anything. He did not commit. He is an innocent person.
I find the notion that a rape victim can be punished for what they call adultery to be quite extraordinary. But in practice, for any cases of adultery, the need for 4 reliable witnesses of the act itself makes convictions rare. Even the pregnant woman sentenced to stoning was acquitted on appeal. But the majority of offences in Judge Issa's court are much less serious. I saw the occasional truck bring prisoners to court on criminal charges, but 90% of what Sharia deals with are land, matrimonial or inheritance disputes. Without expensive lawyers, anyone can bring a case to court.
Wannan magana ta faɗi a gaskiya ba ne.
Ita da ake ga ita ce ba gaskiya ba amma ita ce kai ka sa ai wannan
ko ba sani ba.
Ana shawo ai wannan shari'a ba shi ma ai zaman da ake rana. In kuma yake yin abin da ba yake da wani ga ita ce ka ba mu Allah.
I never saw anyone question or challenge the judge. They seem to respect and abide by his rulings.
Mutunci iri-iri yana wa mahaifiyar.
The Sharia court is primarily here to settle disputes that are common in a small-town rural society like this. Sometimes the judge can get through 4 cases within half an hour. Local people seem happy to submit to Sharia justice, but I wondered, where are the rich and powerful? Sharia was sold to the voters as the solution for corruption in high places. 24 out of the 37 candidates from the recent presidential elections are being investigated for corruption, but not by Sharia courts. I never saw anyone in power in the dock in Judge Issa's court. But a lot of Muslims here are now saying that it's only for the poor people.
Who says that?
A lot of people say.
So have you seen, you came here and you see the reality, you see the my court and you interview many people there. Have you seen it? Tell me.
Yeah, no.
Have you seen any discrimination?
No.
No. Have you seen?
You know who I don't?
No. Forget about anybody say. Answer me. Have you seen any discrimination here in my court?
No, not in your court.
So that is, we can summon anybody. No exception here. No, this is one of the reasons why I say there is a difference between the Sharia and the common law. In common law, like now here, by the provision of the Constitution, you cannot summon governor, president, vice president, and deputy governor, isn't it? But in our Sharia law, we can summon anybody to appear before the court, provided there is allegation to defend it. Nobody, no exceptions. No exceptions.
In reality, all I saw were ordinary poor people, like these men, who were being taken from court to the market square for punishment. Judge Isa explained their crime.
That crime is alcoholism. This alcoholism is very dangerous in the society. It brings a lot of things. It makes somebody to accuse another if he was drunk. It makes somebody to kill another innocently. It can make somebody to do what he's not supposed to do, or to neglect, or to omit to do what he's supposed to do. But by stopping people from drinking alcoholism in the society will be in harmony and sanity.
When the men arrived in the market square, at first it looked like a scene from an old public school, but he wasn't getting six of the best. According to Shari'ah, the punishment for being drunk is 80 lashes.
You know, and this is one of the part of the hudu which has been prescribed in the Sharia, that neither the judge or the leader or any person can change it. It is 80 lashes for anybody who commits such offense.
Did you give them the choice to either take the 80 lashes or to go to jail, or there's no contention
choice
there?
and because one of the prescribed punishment under the Sharia is one of the prescribed punishment. Nobody can change it.
20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25,
As the next man was given his 80 lashes, a crowd gathered. To them it was almost like a bit of entertainment. It's supposed to work as a deterrent, but I'm not so sure.
And what is the purpose of lashings? Is it to embarrass the person?
Yeah, to show that that is the society. Nobody, if somebody come and see you will not commit the offense again. That is to have a condemnation by the society.
That's worse.
Yes.
I may feel very uncomfortable about the market floggings, but in Islam, shame, repentance and forgiveness are crucial parts of what binds the community together. I wanted to ask someone who knew this society better than me why they had wanted to introduce Sharia with its very public punishments. I met up with Yusuf Saki, a journalist who has been reporting from this region for the last 20 years and is a Muslim himself.
Would you say that this is something that people really did want? They wanted this kind of punitive measures brought in?
It's not punitive, but it's all about belief. It's all about religion. People do things because they believe in something. To somebody else, it may be wrong, it may be right. But to the believer of that thing, they are giving it their all. That is their life. That is their faith. This is, the fortunate or unfortunate reality about religion, about faith.
In fact, Sharia has reduced violence. Alcoholism and drug abuse have also dropped dramatically amongst youngsters in Zamfara. But have there been any other effects?
Well, the Sharia has brought lots of changes to Zamfara state. Well, you can see it physically as you walk around the capital, Gusau. You don't have brothels littering the street. 20 years ago, you could see beer parlors, you could see brothels and prostitutes.
So all around here, there
absolutely, absolutely. But you don't have that today.
Although 7 years ago the arrival of Sharia produced violence, Zamfara is now a multicultural state where Muslim and Christian communities appear to live in harmony. Christians are a minority, but are free to worship without fear of persecution. They are a part of everyday life in Zamfara and seem to be accepted by their Muslim neighbours. But how are they treated in the courts?
What happens when you have a case and, let's say, there is a Muslim and a Christian involved in the same case? What do you do?
Section 5, subsection 2 of the Shari'ah Court Laws 1999. The Sharia Court has only jurisdiction over a person of Muslims only. Non-Muslims, we don't have jurisdiction over him. Because we should not prejudice the non-Muslims' interests.
Nevertheless, Christians can choose to use Sharia courts as a first option. They are cheaper and quicker than civil courts because they rarely use lawyers. Not surprisingly, the legal profession is far from happy about this. I went to meet Musa Labaran, a local Christian lawyer who practices in both the common law and Sharia courts.
Having two systems, has it made your life a lot more difficult?
What really happened is that with these two systems we are having difficulty because they have restricted the functions of the magistrate. And as a private counsel who is on the market, we are greatly affected. I am greatly affected. My income has dwindled to a dangerous level.
Much of Labaran's work is now unpaid for both Christian and Muslim victims of injustice, but at least things move faster. 7 years ago, cases would wait for ages to be heard in a few magistrates' courts in the capital. Sharia has brought it to the people.
When the government introduced Sharia, it went ahead to put structures on the ground, and this involves courts all over. So many villages that had no courts have now courts, and we have so many personnel now coming into it.
Labaran's job has become complicated in more ways than one.
I have a client and I need to get to the higher Sharia court in Sado, a distance of about 100 kilometers. Our difficulty is how to raise the money to charter a taxi. So I'm waiting for some clients that will, God may bring, so that we will raise some money and move on.
Sharia justice is now done at a local level. I was curious to see how courts work outside of the capital, in totally rural areas. In the past, people would travel many miles to a magistrate court to get justice. Now, it is the lawyers who have to do the running around. There are 70 new Sharia courts scattered all over the state, but the system doesn't always deliver.
Unfortunately, the trial judge is not here.
Not only is the judge missing, but Labaran's clients, the two defendants, aren't here either.
We are waiting for the police to produce the accused persons, and the accused persons are in Gusau. So we have a long wait.
We've been waiting here for over 2 hours. There's no judge in court, and the defendants aren't here either. Apparently they're on their way by public transport. I guess it's quite normal to hang around waiting in Africa, but it must be really frustrating. I don't know how Labaran does it.
4 hours later, the defendants, the police, the judge and Labaran are all finally in court together. But there are still key people missing. The judge adjourns the case and asks the police to bring his witnesses, and the 2 defendants have to be returned back to their cells in Gusau again, by public transport.
Now my assignment is over here. I'm heading back to Gusau. Let's go.
This laid-back style is possibly nothing to do with Shari'ah. It wouldn't surprise me if it was the same in any other rural court in Africa. In this predominantly farming community, people simply move at a different pace. Back at Judge Isa's court, the relaxed atmosphere continues. Feeling more comfortable here, unwittingly I broke what he said was an Islamic rule. I shook the hand of one of his messengers.
I told you since that night. That's why I was shaking hand with me. Isn't it? I told him. So why you give your hand to the shake hand with one of my messenger?
To be honest, I didn't give my hand. He gave me his hand, so then
I don't think so. He did? Have you read this? No. No, he can make it by mistake. He can do so by mistake. Yeah. But it's prohibited. It's prohibited. Under Islamic law. Why are you not practicing? See, you say you are a Muslim.
Yes, I am.
We are telling you Muslims should survive and make life simple as according to the Sharia. You cannot do anything contrary to the provision of Sharia. That is a total submission to the Almighty God. No more than that. Anything you agree, that's why we say Sharia is not only in the court premises, in your family, between husband and wife. So to cover all women in there.
So how do I seek forgiveness? Do I have to pray? What do I have to do? If I want his forgiveness for shaking the hands of the messenger.
Pray Almighty God, and he is the most merciful and the most compassionate. He can forgive you. Of course. No doubt about that one.
Judge Isa can deal with any criminal cases, ranging from murder and rape to theft. Under Sharia law, he could sentence people to stoning or amputation, but all such sentences would go to appeal. The crime of stealing is taken seriously. You can go to jail for it, or even have your hands cut off. So I was particularly interested in a case of theft about to be heard in Judge Isa's court.
Housebreaking and theft. Amma ga bayanin su ya nuna cewa bai hoshe shago ko gida ko wani wuri.
Shekaran jiya na zo tashan magami ai bayan sallar isha'i mata wuce kanta tana lodi sai na iske kaya da na iske kaya sai mai kaya ya ce don Allah in mai kome kaya ga su sai na tallabo kaya cewa ma ya aza mai ta mota gaban mota kowanne tallabo sai na aza su gaban mota can gaban kanta ya ce ka aza ne na ce ga sunan saman mota sai mota su tafi karkashin su ta wuce in su kowa ɗaya bai wurin ya kama bugu na cewa wai na wasu shago ne na tashan magami ko na cikin birnin ruwa muna za police station na birnin ruwa tare da su na mutanen sun kai su 10 wani abu sai aka bi ne aka ta bugu ana bugu na ni kuma yana cewa wallahi ba shago ba ne wallahi ba shago ba ne sun ka ce ban haɗa musu gaskiya na ce wallahi ba shago ba ne sai aka je aka sami lancin haka aka saka ta ko tsakanin da aka rataye ni sama ni kuma da na gaza kamar an jinara su tune ta baki na ce to wallahi shago ne na buge na haɗa mun shago ne na buge sun ka ce tare da
yanzu kaya wanda cinta su kai kusa ta su yi
wallahi cinto su ne bakin kufa din nan wai bakin abin ga irin bugun da na sha da kuma yasa na ce ni kuma lalle tun da sun kace shago na bugi har da washe min kai yan sanda an kai
umar na ta ji abin da su sun ce masa da sun ya ce masa
da ke su a kuma yan sanda sun kawo mana na kes ba tare da complain ba kuma babu wani bayani da suke mana ne.
The defendant claims that the police tortured him to get the confession, but this didn't even register with the judge. He made no comment about it at all. Judge Issa adjourns the case. When there is no evidence or witnesses, the judge under Islamic law can apply his own discretion in assessing the gravity of a case.
Because he said he didn't enter any house and took that property. What he said, and no evidence before us, which indicates that the man breaks the house or shop and he enter and took away the property. What does the man say? He said somebody on a vehicle asked him to assist him and give him that property. So on doing so, he diverts that property another way. That it means he has converted the property for himself.
While the judge deliberates, the accused have to go back to jail to await judgment. Except that the police truck forgot to come back for them.
Attorney General, the police.
And no one, including the Sharia policeman for the court, knows what to do with them.
It's my responsibility. And I just want to seek an assistance from him. He has a right. He has a vehicle. I'm seeking assistance from him so that he will take them to prison now.
Police?
Abin da ke na aika ga kudin transportation, dawa transportation dai ka san gwamnati complaining ka ba don haka babu complaining ka.
Ko ai yanzu
complain. Zan taking risk zan ba.
Ka ba police.
Okay, amfani da mashin ɗinka. Idan ka wani mashin ka kai ko nawa kashi in ka kawo littafin zan biya ka.
Wani yana da mashin. Ka ba police. Kuma ga kabu kawunan da shi. Ni na tashi aiki na tashi.
Kana da mashin?
Sai Monday. Ba mai.
To kuma zo mu je a baka wani. Jami'a gefa nan.
Finally, the court policeman borrows a motorbike and takes the responsibility of getting them back to their cells. The next day, Judge Issa is about to sentence them.
Cewa kai a cikin Bello da kai Kabiru Bello a bisa laifin tuhumar sata da fasa gida, wato ɗibar kayan, fasa shaguna da ɗibar kayan. Ko da yake sun kasa wanda sun kasa tabbatar da wannan laifi. Kuma shi mai gabatar kara ga shi ya faɗa ya ce ba su da shaida da cikin da suke so a ba su dama su yi. Sun ka ba su samu gabatar da komai kuma sun ko da ya dace. I have two options here. Either to flog him up to 15 lashes or to sentence him imprisonment or to give him both. To bisa ga ikirarin bakin da ta yi na yi alƙalin Isa Ismail mai alƙalin kotun shari'a musulunci ya hukunta maka bulala 10. Da farko tare da zaɓe ka sake aikata irin wannan da
da wanda ya san za su kai din ya ma ya kula da
I found this punishment a bit brutal, if not humiliating, for stealing a bag of biscuits and a calculator, but he seemed resigned to it. Most people given the choice between 10 lashes or a year in jail would have made the same decision.
Yes, he's free to go. Use the church now.
Judge Issa, in Britain, we couldn't really have a flogging in public because it's considered a little bit cruel. No,
not cruel. And the one who choose to be flogged, nobody person to be flogged. They are the one who say testify, give testimony by themselves against themselves. That is the right of the religion of the meaning of Islam. Total submission to the commandment of Almighty Allah. They have agreed. They want that punishment to be discharged on them.
You know why they want that punishment? Shall I tell you what I think?
You tell me.
I think that they want that punishment because for 5 minutes they're going to be in pain. They're getting flogged. And they'll bear the pain for 5 minutes. And then after that, they think, well, that's fine. I'm free now. I can run away. And I bet you think it's going to be a deterrent.
No. They will beat the talent possess others. Of course.
You think so? I'm not sure.
Why?
I'm not sure.
I'm sure. Because I know it's hard to get somebody bringing here 1, twice, up to that time for the same offense. It's not easy.
After a few weeks in Nigerian courts, I could see that the two legal systems rarely had anything to do with each other. I wondered what happens when a Christian and a Muslim are involved in a dispute. I then heard about a test case with a Christian man who had been involved in a legal battle for over a year over the fate of his 13-year-old daughter.
Mr. Lover, can you tell me when you last saw your daughter?
Kawai da na ci ta zo hutu da ta zo hutu ta kwana guda nan sannan sai na ci ta tafi ta ga mamata da na je ganin mamata lokaci guda kawai shi kenan ƙarshen gani na da ita.
Without his consent, the little girl was converted to Islam and married off by his ex-wife, a Muslim in the same village. It's now become a tug-of-war between a Christian father and a Muslim mother. Although in Africa it's quite common for a 13-year-old girl to be married, her father would like her to be educated. He complained to his church, so the church paid for a lawyer to fight his case. It's Labaran.
Rashin makarantar nan ta da suka hana ta makarantar ta shi ne fi ba ni da abin da zan bata wanda yake kari makarantar tunda na ta da ka kara makarantar gaskiya da na kowa farin ciki saboda na ba ta jari wanda ba za a kariya ba abada sai dai bayan rayuwa kaga ko iyalinta za su yi amfani da jarin da na ba ta.
With lawyers involved, the case has been tossed around between the two systems for over a year. The Shari'ah court was willing to decide on custody, but Labaran has taken his client's case to the High Court in order to contest their jurisdiction. It's turning into a matter of legal principle.
You know, we have, like you said, conflict of laws. The Islamic law is different from the common law, but generally speaking, consent is no consent if it is given by a person who is underage. And of course, that thing has set up the Christian community against the Muslim community. Why should they allow a small girl, push a small girl into just because, you know, the police, the idea was get her, change her religion, get her married off to a Muslim, and then there will be no point of return. And that's what we are fighting.
After hours of negotiations, I've been given access to the High Court. It certainly wouldn't be allowed in Britain, but even here it's on condition that I don't film the judge.
What began as a simple dispute about custody has become a complicated test case in the High Court. It's now a legal contest between two lawyers.
The grounds of objection, my lord, are as follows. That the marriage which the applicant happened to be the product of was conducted under Islamic law. For this reason, the Honorable Court lacked jurisdiction to entertain this suit.
Answer to the 6 and 7 respondent has grossly misunderstood the facts placed before this Honorable Court and the nature of the application before it. He has grossly misunderstood it.
As the lawyers argued over legal technicalities, I almost missed the fast and effective justice of Judge Isa's Sharia court.
Sharia court's establishment law is not applicable.
These lawyers weren't arguing about what is best for the little girl, but about which court the case should be heard in.
Lawyers have tendency to convert purely civil matters into fundamental right enforcement matters. So it's not always that what a lawyer says this is a fundamental right issue, that it is fundamental rights. It may be purely civil matter, like in this one.
Let me just register so that we don't waste the time of the court.
While the lawyers argue, the child's father is left bemused.
Lokacin da muke babban kotu na jihar Zamfara High Court, to abin da ya sa ba zan gane abin da ya faru ba saboda suna magana da turanci idan kuma an taso ba za a sake.
As I told the court, at the time of the course of action, Kulwa has not changed her faith. Therefore, the law that is governing this action is the law that is applicable to a Christian.
I couldn't help wondering what the girl would want, and when I asked Labaran, I was astonished at his response.
And are you sure that the girl didn't want to get married, or maybe she was tired of school? Have you checked all of that?
You see, I had no opportunity, just like the father had no opportunity to see her, to talk to her, since he allowed her to go and visit the mother. So there was no way we would know her position. Even if she is tired of schooling, even if she doesn't want schooling, it is not for someone else to determine it for her. It is for her father to determine it. Now, if the court will pronounce it, then of course we will have a pronouncement. It is as good as a written law. Okay, that is what we are fighting for. We are not interested in getting her out of the husband because it will complicate our life. Honestly, we wish her the best remaining there. But other children are coming up. Other children are coming up. Not only Christian children, even Muslim children.
The little girl is now 14 years old and expecting her first child. By the time this case is resolved, she may be too old for school and busy raising her young family. But the lesson for Britain is how the two legal systems can clash when lawyers get involved. The two systems also differ in their methods of punishment. The Nigerian legal system still has the death penalty by hanging. Under Sharia, you can be stoned to death. But in the 7 years of Sharia here, there have never been any sentences of stoning actually carried out. And what about amputations? After 6 weeks, I tracked down someone who actually had his hand cut off. The prison guard took me to meet Lawali Isa. His crime? Stealing 3 bicycles. I wanted to know how he felt about this extreme punishment.
What crime did you commit to make your hand be cut?
Okay, I steal somebody property. Then catch me. The time when they catch me, yes, then come ask me, say that you believe what your Quran or you believe what another in the law of Nigeria. I say I believe what Quran. That is the reason. They say if you believe what Quran, then go cut your hand. I say I believe with our Quran. I give my hand, then cut my hand. So Quran say that. That is the reason. Even me, I'm a Muslim. That is the reason I believe the thing one Quran say. I give my hand to cut my hand.
You were happy to have your hand cut?
Yes, I'm happy.
Because it's to do with your religion?
Yes, because my religion come with that thing.
Not everyone takes Lawali's submissive attitude. He insisted on having his punishment. It's a measure of his belief. But there is an appeals procedure to commute this sentence that he could have used, as others do. In Gusau prison, no one is currently waiting to have their hand cut off. I was told that in other states they're sent to prison for a few years to await the amputation, and then quietly released. I wanted to know why this happens. I thought amputations were a strict part of Sharia law. I'll ask the man who brought Sharia to this state.
Very good.
I'm just going to have an interview with Ahmed Sani, the governor of Zamfara, the architect of Sharia, so I want to ask him a few questions. After decades of military rule, Ahmed Sani was voted in as governor of Zamfara. He's used his electoral mandate to introduce Sharia into his state. He has been in power for 2 terms of office. Now, can you explain to me why you're not handing out any more amputation centres, or certainly that they're not being carried out? Is that part of a reform? Is it something that you've decided that in this day and age it's a little bit unkind, let's say, to a person to have their hand chopped off?
No. You see, basically when we started, right from beginning, the objective of that law was clearly stated. That is deterrence, not punishment. This God we are talking about, who created us, loves us, He wants us to live with all our hands, with all our eyes, with all our legs, without losing any part of our body. So, and He said, we cannot live a pious life. We must in one way or another offend God. But in the process, we should we repent and seek for forgiveness, and God will forgive us. So that's why you don't find any amputation being carried out, because the objective is not to punish, but to deter people from committing offenses.
The facts are that since Sharia was introduced here, only 2 people have had their hands cut off. According to official records, both refused their right of appeal and insisted the punishment be carried out. Judge Isa, however, who has the power to pass the sentence, takes a stricter view than the governor. But do you think in principle the punishment of amputation is a good punishment?
Of course. Why? Because divine law, you need not to ask that question. It's a divine law. The creator, He is the one who mentioned it in the Holy Quran. This is the provision of the law, and nobody, whatsoever he is, to change it.
But you don't think that it's an outmoded punishment? For those days of the Prophet, that punishment was applicable. But now...
Up to now it's applicable.
Do you think... But how? How can it be useful to have somebody's hand amputated? What use is he to society then?
I told you not to ask this question. Are you a Muslim? Let me ask you one question. Are you a Muslim?
Yes, I am.
Why are you a Muslim?
Why am I a Muslim?
Yes, tell me.
I was born a Muslim.
You are born a Muslim. Okay. Just you did me said to be a Muslim. So it's the same in the Sharia. Just it has been mentioned by the Holy Quran, it has been wrote by the Prophet and it has been ordered by Almighty God. So you need not ask why. This is strict liability.
I'm not allowed to question.
You need not ask question on this.
I've spent 6 weeks watching Islamic justice Nigerian style. Most people I talked to here in Zamfara said they welcome Sharia. It suits their rural Islamic lifestyle. It's cut down drinking and violence. The court is no longer an intimidating place of wigs and gowns, doing business in a language they don't understand. The sticking points for me are still the treatment of women in rape and adultery cases, and the option of amputation. But Sharia here seems very different from the strict regimes of the Taliban in Afghanistan or Iran and Saudi, with their beheadings and stonings. Before I left, I couldn't resist asking Judge Isa what he thought about some British Muslims' call to have Sharia law in Britain.
Applying that, since they are not applying Sharia in totality, they have to be abided by the provision of the constitutions. They have to provide law which can protect their interests, because the essence of Sharia is to protect the individual's interests.
But do they still need Sharia then? Would you say they still need Sharia law?
Of course, if you say a Muslim, because Muslim has to do with Sharia SW. Sharia is like blood in the soil or in the life of the individual. He cannot do without it. He's a real Muslim. Yes, he had to do it. And the British law must allow them to practice it because they are claim about human right. And they, if they are not allowed to do their own Sharia, that means their right is being curtailed, which is injustice.
In Nigeria, we saw Sharia adapting to local ways, and in modern multicultural Britain, that would mean coming to terms with equal rights for women. It could work here as a civil option for those who want it, with a backup of appeals to the High Court. And I've seen it can be fast, cheap and conciliatory. That's where the legal system here has a lot to learn. But there are risks. Muslims believe Sharia stems from the unchangeable word of God, but it's still open to interpretation and abuse.
It's a powerful and moving journey through modern-day sexual attitudes. Stephen Fry's HIV and Me, here on BBC 2 at 9.